You want to know what's actually terrifying about the Green Goblin? It's not the pumpkin bombs, it's not the glider, it's not even that laugh, though admittedly that laugh is fucking nightmare fuel. It's the idea that by the time he actually shows up, you've already lost the city. Picture this. You're swinging through Manhattan and something just feels off, wrong. People aren't cheering like they used to. They're backing away, pulling their kids closer. Cops aren't shouting, "Spider-Man, we need help." They're radioing dispatch that they've got eyes on the suspect. Your name splashed across every screen in Times Square like you're the goddamn problem. And you're just sitting there on a ledge, exhausted, going, "Bro, I just stopped a symbiote apocalypse. What more do you want from me?" That's why I keep thinking, Spider-Man 3 shouldn't start with Goblin. It can't just be another, oh no, new bad guy, bigger explosion situation. That's played out. Nah, it's gotta start with something sneakier. Something that makes your skin crawl. It starts with your reputation being murdered. And the perfect guy for that job? Chameleon. Alright, here's my pitch for Spider-Man 3, and I'm willing to bet actual money on this. Norman doesn't start off as the full-blown Halloween costume psycho. That's amateur hour. He plays it smart. He breaks Spider-Man's name first, makes the entire city distrust you, isolate you, turn on you, and then, when you're completely alone, and the world thinks you're a menace, that's when the Goblin stuff begins. And look, this isn't just me pulling stuff out of thin air. Spider-Man 2 already loaded the gun. Chameleon's there, waiting in the wings like a Chekhov's, well, chameleon. Norman's completely unspooling by the end, you can see it in his eyes. And Otto's got that vibe of a guy who's not finished writing his story yet. So if Insomniac wants to make Spider-Man 3 feel darker, and I mean actually darker, not just more explosions at night, darker. This is how you do it. You don't raise the stakes by making the villain stronger. You raise them by making everything else weaker. Why Norman's first move isn't gonna be fists? Here's the thing about Norman Osborn. He's not Craven. He's not some hunter who wants a fair fight. He's not even Otto, who at least has the decency to be direct about his rage. Norman's power is systems, money, influence, public relations, the kind of power where he doesn't have to throw a single punch to beat you. He just makes sure you never get a fair fight to begin with. And after Spider-Man 2, he's got the perfect emotional excuse to justify literally anything. Harry, that guilt, that rage, that I lost my son and now the world's gonna pay energy. So if he wants Spider-Man to suffer, and oh boy does he, the smartest play isn't attacking him publicly. That's just dumb. That's how you become a martyr. No, you make the city turn on him first. You chip away at that trust until it's dust. Because here's what nobody tells you in superhero stories. Once you lose public trust, you're not a hero anymore. You're just a guy in tights bleeding out in slow motion. So why is Chameleon the perfect weapon? Let's be real about Chameleon just for a second. He's not just guy who wears disguises. That's just reductive. Chameleon is the concept of not knowing what's real brought to life. And in a Spider-Man game, where Peter and Miles are both juggling double lives that are already hanging by a thread, that's absolutely brutal. Imagine this. Chameleon robs a bank in Spider-Man's suit, but it's off. Maybe the wrong shade of red, the lenses are weird, but it's blurry security footage, so who can tell? Just believable enough to sow doubt. He stages a rescue that goes wrong. Maybe a building falls, maybe someone gets hurt, and suddenly Spider-Man looks reckless and dangerous. Or the worst one, he just beats some poor guy half to death in an alley dressed as you and lets a bystander get it on their phone. 30 seconds of video. That's all it takes. The scary part? It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be plausible enough for Twitter to run with it, for JJJ to scream about it, for the Daily Bugle headline to write itself. Chameleon isn't a final boss. He's not a big cinematic showdown. He's a slow poison, drip by drip. And that's exactly why he should be first. Now drop Norman into this mess. But here's the key. He still hasn't put on the Goblin suit. In fact, it's way scarier if he doesn't. Publicly, he's on the news, looking tired, concerned, another tragedy. When will this so-called hero be held accountable? All that performative grief and anger. Privately, he's cutting checks to make sure the chaos keeps happening, funding private security firms that accidentally escalate situations, anti-vigilante task force with shoot-first protocols, citywide surveillance tech, emergency ordinances that basically make it illegal to web swing anywhere. It's corporate villainy meets supervillainy, and if it sounds depressingly realistic, yeah, that's the whole point. Norman doesn't need to be a goblin to be a monster. He just needs a budget and a grudge, and he's kind of got both. And this is where Otto Octavius turns the whole thing from bad to, hell no. He's in the raft, physically locked up, but he's not powerless. He's got the one thing Norman would kill for, Peter's identity. Both of their identities, actually. Otto is also petty enough to relish every second of Norman having to crawl to him for information, beg him, bargain with him. So my theory, Otto doesn't just hand over the info to help. He's not some sidekick, he's Otto Octavius. He does what he always does, tries to prove he's the smartest man in any room, even a prison cell. He feeds Norman exactly what he needs to turn generational trauma into a concrete supervillain plan, and Otto gets his final chapter, his revenge. Not by escaping, but sitting there like Hannibal Lecter pulling the strings while everyone else dances. It's honestly more terrifying than another boss fight. Think about it. The twist is he never leaves, he just watches. If Insomniac actually does this, the whole game writes itself. Act 1, Spider-Man becomes a villain. You're stopping crimes, but every time someone's filming, every save gets clipped out of context. Every swing through the city, you see more graffiti. Spider-Man out. You're still doing the work, but the work itself is being weaponized against you. Act 2, it gets personal. Chameleon stops playing with the city and starts playing with you. Copies faces, voices, your stupid jokes. Your friends get dragged into messes they don't understand, and you can't even explain without pulling the mask off. The double life stops being a balancing act and starts being a noose. Act 3, Goblin arrives when you're already broken. Only after the city is against you, after your personal life is in ruins, after you're exhausted and isolated, that's when Norman stops pretending. And when Goblin hits, it doesn't feel like new villain alert. It feels like the final form of a plan that's been suffocating you for the entire game. Look, everyone expects Goblin. He's Green Goblin. He's Norman Osborn. We all know it's coming. So the only way to make him feel fresh isn't bigger bombs or a crazier glider. It's making him feel inevitable. Like the city was carefully, deliberately pushed into the exact state he needed. Scared, angry, desperate for a scapegoat. Spider-Man is the perfect scapegoat if someone's out there disguised as him selling the lie. Goblin stops being villain of the week and becomes the final symptom of a disease that's already infected everything. That's a different kind of scary. That's the kind that sticks with you after you put the controller down. So yeah, my theory is pretty simple. Spider-Man 3 starts with Chameleon turning the city into a weapon. Norman funds it quietly, Otto whispers the playbook from his cell, and once you're completely alone, Goblin rises. That's not just a villain arc, that's a trap slowly snapping shut. I'm curious, what do you actually want? Do you want Spider-Man 3 to just be a straight up Goblin action movie, big fights, big explosions, the usual? Or do you want it to go full psychological thriller where you're fighting the city itself just as much as the guys in the costumes? Because I'm telling you, if they make New York City turn on Spider-Man first, that's when the game gets truly evil in the best possible way.